In today's video, I'm going to talk with the old man about all the things that have been changing in bracket racing over the last few years and what he really has done to try and keep up with those changes and keep up with all the things that are going on in bracket racing and how he stays so sharp year after year after year. He's been doing this a long time, you guys. He has tons of experience. He doesn't know that we're going to have this conversation yet. So we'll see how it goes. Stay tuned.
GallStar TV.
Real quick before we get started, you guys, if you're at all into drag racing or bracket racing content here on YouTube, you are on the premier bracket racing channel, so check it out. Please consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I post videos each and every week. I do not want you guys to miss any of them, so definitely consider hitting subscribe and turn on bell notifications. You won't miss any videos. Let's get right into it. What's up, guys? Here I am with the old man. Today I'm talking with him about a lot of things have changed in the sport of bracket racing over the years, especially in the recent years. Things have been changing quickly, it seems. And I just wanted to kind of talk with the old man a little bit, who has been around this sport for years. Since 83 he's been racing. I think we just decided it was 83 when the old man started bracket racing, and has had all kinds of success ever since then. Here and there. No, he's been consistently turning on win lights for that many years. So I just kind of wanted to pick his brain a little bit. What are the big things that he's seen change in this sport, and how has he kind of adapted, and how has he stayed at the level that he is in, over these changes and throughout these last years. So that's kind of just what I wanted to bring to you guys today. I hope you enjoy. What is the first thing that you've noticed in the recent years of what has really changed in bracket racing?
Everybody's gotten faster.
Way faster. like way faster. We've seen 4.0 cars in the 8th bracket racing all the time. You see
we
that?
Go out and bracket race 7-second dragsters in the quarter mile, round robin all the time. Well,
Didn't used to be that way.
When I started, pro stock wasn't in the 7s yet.
Jeez,
and it would take hours between runs on those cars, and even the pros didn't have good parts like we have now.
And that's really the reason why everyone has gotten so much faster, is because of technology. And
it's mail order horsepower now. You can buy it if you. Doesn't mean you can always make it work, but you can buy it. You never get good parts back in the day. We dug through the junkyard and dug the best sets of rods and things like that. Now you just order the good stuff. The cars are so much more durable. That's why we can go faster. And the faster part of it has made it all different too, for different reasons of everybody wanting to be the guy chasing instead of being chased. So that's why it's gone faster and faster. I remember spending weeks of evenings grinding on a set of cylinder heads, trying to get a little bit more flow, not really knowing what I was doing, before I would go through somewhere and then have to throw them away and start over again.
Wow. I know. It's definitely changing. But just in the last 5 years, the average ET at a bracket race has probably dropped at least half a second at least, probably. And I'm talking 8th mile racing. That's probably even more in quarter mile racing, which brings me to what I would say the other big shift in the sport in the last, in the Midwest. Here we're in the Midwest, and we're definitely behind the times, relatively speaking, to the rest of the country. Down south, like Texas, you guys down in Florida, you guys down in, Alabama, down in the southern states, primarily race 8th mile forever, probably. But up here, we were always a quarter mile, and now the shift has really been to 8th mile pretty much throughout the country.
Especially bracket racing and all the fast no prep races and heads up things are all 8th mile now.
Yeah. So what do you prefer, 8th mile or quarter mile?
I still kind of like all the time you have in a quarter mile race to judge your opponent. But I definitely like the 8th mile part, that it's so much better on parts, and you can get through the races quicker. It's just all in all better for the racer.
Well, the race is a lot tighter. The race is a lot more competitive in 8th mile, which may be good or bad, but I think that competition level going up and these packages getting tighter and tighter is that's kind of bringing a little bit more of excitement back to bracket racing. At least I think, like, and that's part of the point of this channel, you guys, is I want to try and get bracket racing out there a little bit more and get people to understand it a little bit better. And why is it so cool? Why is it so exciting? And why should they care about it? Is because think about what we're doing out there. We're talking thousandths of a second that races are won and lost by all the time. I mean, how often you see a perfect run nowadays where somebody's trip zip on the tree and dead on their dial with a 0? How often do you see that now? It seems to happen more and more and more. So the competition level is just, it's like peaked so high now that if you can explain that to people and get people to understand it, it really is kind of exciting and amazing, I think. And that's kind of what really excites me about this sport. It's just that competition. People are just so much tighter on their packages. We're talking against their dial and on the tree.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, why is it didn't used to be that way?
Well, people were never consistent enough, didn't have good enough equipment to be that consistent. Now that you have a car that should run within 100th practically all the time, especially on an 8th mile race, you can dial it that tight. And on the tree, if you haven't figured out how to stage your car good enough and that it hooks good enough to have a consistent 60-foot every time, you can do that now. The equipment is that good, tracks are good, tire technology, suspension technology. Now you can just set up to be that good with a delay box. It's all a matter of how big a risk you're willing to take.
Yeah.
And everybody is that close, so we all have to take it. Back when I started, you didn't even worry about your 60 foots hardly.
Yeah.
Most of the time we didn't know what they were. Those weren't even recorded on our time slips.
Really?
No, there was never a 60-foot time.
So what times did you get?
You got your ET, your mile an hour, and your reaction time, handwritten on a little card.
Holy smokes.
That was it. You didn't have the rest
awesome.
of the stuff.
That's crazy to think, because nowadays, it's like the first thing I look at on my ticket is how the 60-foot vary, because that's where nowadays with today's equipment, that's where all the variance is in these things. I mean, that's where a huge chunk of the inconsistency, if you have any inconsistency, it's the root cause of that is most likely in the 60-foot. The equipment, the technology, and all of the pieces and all the parts that go into these cars, it's at this level now that the car repeats. At least for me, and I think for most people, there's way more variance in my reaction at the starting line than my car versus the dial. As long as I'm dialing the car right, and there's, we talk about it all the time on this channel, there's all kinds of things that you can do, all kinds of software and technology that you can utilize to figure out how to dial your car. And as long as I got my car dialed right, I mean, that thing is way more consistent than I am on the starting line. So, with that being said, this sport is transferring more and more away from, can you build a really consistent car? Because everybody can now. To, it's more of a driver sport now, I think. It's like, can you cut the light? So much more of it is taken into account at the starting line because everybody is consistent at the finish line.
Yeah, and you just got to be able to do it under any and all conditions and not let things get in your head. And
the mental game.
Some of the big races where they're drawn out over 20-hour period, it's really hard to maintain focus, for me anyway. Maybe I'm just too old.
Do you have any tips for people who have been bracket racing for a long time, like you, and any tips for them on how they can keep up with all of these changes, how they can keep up with the faster cars, switching maybe from quarter to 8th mile, and how they can actually, beat that mental game, how they can brush up on their skills? What tips do you have you can share with the audience today?
I personally don't think that you have to be a faster car. I mean, the big races we've gone to have gone to way slower vehicles. You are not judging that car at the other end. There's plenty of people that say they can. I'm not one of them. I can't do it. Maybe people can, but Tom had on his video a super slow-mo of a 630 car against him. In super slow-mo, you couldn't tell who took the stripe. So how are we supposed to do it at 150 miles an hour in the blink of a second? I don't believe that. You have to rely upon your car being consistent, and you need to work at that. Work at getting your 60 foots consistent all the time. That's the thing.
I think there's a lot of good tips in there, and just to recap, the one thing that I would pull out of what he just said would be, don't lie to yourself, because you might think that you can take 00 every single time. Well, guess what? You can't. Like, you probably are lying to yourself. You have to be honest with yourself and look at the race that you have ahead of you. If it's a similar mile an hour car, and you have a good understanding of what that closing rate is going to look like on the racetrack, yes, you can be taking 00. But if you're against a really, really, really slow car, or if you're against a really, really fast car relative to what you are, be honest with yourself. Do you really think you're going to be able to take 00? And if the answer is you're going to be honest with yourself and say, no, I don't think I'm going to be able to tighten that up, then dial your car a little bit more honest and adjust for that on the front end. And I think that's kind of what I've been doing. That's what you've been doing. We've been having some, success with that. And that's kind of what I've been saying in a couple of other videos. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Oh, the phone is ringing. Guess that's a good time to wrap up the video. But anything
Somebody's
else?
calling telling us they can take 00 every time.
Somebody on the phone's like, hey, I'm taking 00. I'm taking 00 every time. No, dropping some knowledge on the channel. Leave a comment down below if you guys have any other questions I could ask the old man. He's got plenty of experience doing this for way more years than even me, and he's pretty much who I learned everything from. So there's too many people calling us right now. The phone is ringing off the hook. They do not like this content already.
Gotta go.
Later. The internet is saying that they want an old man cam. In-car camera. Are you down for that?
I don't know.
You're not sure yet? What about just a roll cage cam, not the helmet cam?
Well, I know I don't want none of the helmet.
Okay, maybe we get to 5,000 subscribers and we'll do the old man cam. You down for that, Dad?
How many you got now?
Like 2,500. So I have to double the size of this channel, and we'll.
Yeah, they don't think about it.
No, you gotta give them a promise.
Okay.
All right, at 5,000 subscribers, we're gonna get the old man cam. He'll promise to do it. Okay, that's the story.